To introduce Michael Adams, who is the Executive Director of SAGE. We work a lot with SAGE. It's very important to us what they're doing to hold up the elders in our communities, making sure that they are not left behind, making sure that they are not isolated, making sure that they have voices that are heard. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Good afternoon, y'all. This afternoon, we honor our queer elders by taking this moment to present SAGE's National LGBTQ Leadership in Aging Award to an individual who has made outstanding contributions to the fight for equity, respect, and dignity for our elder pioneers. Those members of our communities who have had the courage and the determination to step out for who they are and who they love during decades as now, when that was life-threatening in every nook and cranny of this country and this world. Our modern-day prophet, Katherine Acey has recently and powerfully written about how the world has been shaped relentlessly by the brutality of racism. We also know from our own lives and the lives of those we love that the world has been twisted and tainted and torn by homophobia and transphobia and biphobia and so many other forms of oppression and bigotry and cultural violence. And in spite of this, in fact, because of this, there have always been those who have had the courage to fight back, to strike blows against the structures of oppression, even in the most dangerous of times. These are the elders we honor, those who have fought hard and continue to fight hard in ways big and small to make a world better for all of us who care about equity and justice. I'm talking about lesbian elders like Angela Davis, who was a young woman, who was a young woman who put her life and freedom on the line in the fight against imperialism, racism, sexism, and the prison industrial complex, and it continues the fight for freedom and justice to this day. And queer elders like Lani Kahumanu, who was a middle-aged woman, came out as a proud bisexual and became a fierce agitator and educator against biphobia and for the positive embracing of our bodies and sex. And people like Edie Windsor, who as an elder woman, took on the federal government when it refused to recognize her relationship with the love of her life, Thea, and struck a stunning blow for love and justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Yes, this afternoon, we present the SAGE National LGBTQ Leadership and Aging Award to an activist and a leader who has fought in the great traditions of Angela and Lonnie and Edie and so many others, and who has brought new life to the fight for equity and justice with and for and beside LGBTQ elders. For more than 20 years, Katherine Acey served as the Executive Director of the Australia Lesbian Foundation for Justice. Yes, under Katherine's leadership, Australia established the first Lesbian Writers Fund, became one of the first foundations in the world to fund emerging LGBTQ rights movements in the global South and East, created the International Fund for Sexual Minorities, and launched the U.S. Movement Building Initiative to support people of color and LGBTQ organizations to collectively build their power and voice. Now, many people could have and would have decided they had done enough after more than 2 decades of path-breaking work in Australia, but not Katherine. In 2012, Katherine became the Executive Director of Rio Circle, the country's only organization created specifically and passionately to address the needs of LGBTQ older people of color. Katherine's leadership of Rio Circle brought fresh new perspective and power, not just to Rio and Rio's work, but to the LGBTQ aging movement as a whole. In 2015, Katherine stepped down from Rio Circle's executive director position and was replaced by Jose Albino. But here again, Katherine is continuing her commitment to justice, equity, and respect for LGBTQ elders of color by now serving as GRIO's Director of Strategic Partnerships and as Senior Activist Fellow for the Barnard Center for Research on Women, and as a board member for Political Research Associates and the Center for Constitutional Rights, and I could go on and on and on, but I won't. What I'm going to say last is, on a personal level, it has been a special privilege to call Katherine a friend and colleague for many years. The work of SAGE, all of our work, all of our collective work on behalf of and with our community's elders has been made stronger and better by Katherine's fierce and tireless advocacy for equity and justice. It is my great honor to present the 2015 National LGBTQ Leadership and Aging Award to Katherine Acey.
Thank you for all the leadership you've given to our movement, particularly our aging movement, elders, the leadership that SAGE has given, and all the work that's been done in terms of organizing and advocacy under your leadership in this last decade, both at the community level, state, and federal level, and within coalitions with many groups within our movement, but also across movements. Michael welcomed me into the field of aging, and as I took on the leadership of Rio Circle, he and I made a commitment to build a trusting relationship, tell each other the truth, challenge each other to do better. Sometimes we laughed, sometimes, well, I cried. I'm not sure if he's cried yet. I may have to work on that. We argued, we listened, we changed, and we persevered with integrity in the service and with love for our communities and for inclusivity. I want to thank the task force. This plenary was amazing. I had all I could do but to cry. I am a little kind of a weepy one sometimes, but this was an incredible moment to hear these stories and to hear these folks who work with and for us in our movement to be so vulnerable with their own stories. I thank the task force for the leadership, and I want to give a special shout out to my friend, Sue Hyde. And I want to thank the task force for making this conference, for those of us who are older, more economically accessible. I don't know if many people know that there's no registration fee if you're 65 or older. I'm 65 and a half. I also want to give another shout out to OLAC, Old Lesbians Organizing Committee. I never thought I would live long enough to be a member of OLAC. The women in my family tend not to age or get to old age. But luckily, I can now become a member, and I attended a workshop that they did this morning on aging. I almost didn't go. I'm so grateful that I did. What a gift. It was wonderful. It was a smaller group, but it was a very diverse group. Race-wise, gender identification, and age-wise. People in the room were 19, there was every decade there, 19 up to 73. So I know there is hope within our movement to do the intergenerational work that's going to be so important. So it's a good feeling to be appreciated for one's work, for doing the right thing, or trying to do the right thing. It's also very humbling. And as you all know, no one can do it alone and make any kind of difference. I know we may feel alone, but we really are not alone. And I know I stand on the shoulders of many people, particularly lesbians of color. So another shout, I'm doing a lot of shout outs. I must give a shout out to the visionary Regina Shavers, Rio's co-founder and first executive director, who left us way too soon in 2008 of cancer. She was one of the driving forces, actually the driving force, behind the creation of Rio. She called a meeting in Brooklyn in 1995. It was mostly African American, Caribbean, and queer people of Latina descent who saw the needs of the people and rallied the community. That night, 80 people came together and they decided to form Rio, that they were going to do for each other and for themselves. It was powerful and empowering. I didn't aspire to be an executive director again. 23 years at Australia is sufficient. I thought so. I think others thought so as well. And I'm happy to say a lot of the Australian friends are here. And organization is going strong. But when Rio came to me, I couldn't resist. I couldn't say no. It was supposed to be 6 months interim. Turned into almost 3 years. I've never been good at estimating time. However, it's been a gift. Rio, as many of you know, means storyteller. And again, we must continue to tell our stories and all of our truths. Also, Rio means gay reunion in our time. So when I think about the significance of Rio, its name, its people, I think how deep meaning it has for those who are trying to live their lives in dignity and integrity. I just want to say a few things about older people, because I hope when we leave today that we do many things that are inclusive, that look at age and ageism in our community. And we don't have to be divided. It's not about, if you're too old or you're too young. It's about how we talk to each other and work with each other. I just want to give just a few statistics so people kind of get a sense, because I don't think we hear this all the time. The size of the United States population of queer folks of color is rapidly increasing. However, we're a population that remains grossly understudied and underserved. LGBT older adults of color remain largely invisible in most aging services, in research and public policy initiatives. And I know SAGE is working hard to make that change with many of us. There are many challenges facing LGBT older adults of color, including lifetime and ongoing racial bias and discrimination, inequities related to sexuality and gender identity and expression, immigration status, language, cultural barriers, and of course, economic disparities, gross economic disparities. We can do something about this, but we must do it together. Some of the work I'm doing with Rio is intergenerational, and some of the work I'm doing in my fellowship is about aging and activism and bringing all of us together in different generations to love each other, to share with each other, to help each other. I want to just say a few things. I was also inspired last night, and I've been inspired. I came out as a feminist and as a lesbian later in life. I was a radical, but those things I came into late. And Barbara Smith and all the black feminists who wrote that statement many years ago gave me permission to both be a feminist and know it was my movement too, but it also helped me to come out knowing that I would not have to abandon my Arab American community because it needed to look at how it was being either sexist or homophobic, but that I needed to be with all of my people and to be all of myself. So I just want to say, I don't have to be old to be in, thank you. I don't have to be old to be in a meaningful relationship and in solidarity with elders. I don't need to be young. I was that once. To understand, listen, and share, and know my context as a young person is different today than it was for me. I don't have to be an immigrant to say, no, not one more. I don't have to be a queer Palestinian to know that pinkwashing and occupation is wrong, cruel, and racist. I don't have to be Jewish to challenge anti-Semitism wherever it exists. I could go on, but I need to know my point here. So I just want to end by asking you to do something. I am going to stand now with my shoulders back. And I'm going to ask everybody in the room who is 65 and older to please stand if you can. If not, wave your hands. 65 and older. If you're 50 and older, stand. Keep standing. 50 and older, stay. If you're 40 and older, stand up. If you're 30 and older, stand up and wave. If you're 20 and older, stand up. If you're a teenager, stand up. If you believe in social justice feminism, yell yes. If you believe we're going to win together, stand up. All right. And remember, revolution is about love, it is about forgiveness.